Now that we've decided we may want to have a histogram rather than a tree map, we're going to go ahead and just duplicate this code. So we'll select it, Command copy, and then we will Command V, so Command C, Command V to copy and paste this code. And then we're going to make edits in order to bring it into the kind of the standard that we're looking for. So this EX_level line, I actually don't have any issue with. It's kind of this fig equals px.treemap that I may want to turn into a histogram. So first we want to look at it and see, okay, there are required or there are optional arguments like data frame, names, values, and path that we're using. And then we're going to look at histogram. So we're going to type histogram, and we're going to look and see if there are arguments that are different to histogram and Treemap, and it looks like there are. So that first argument, the data frame, is the same, but instead of what we see here in Treemap as being names, values, parents, IDs, path, we see X, Y, color, pattern, shape, facet, row. So this looks like we're going to have to change, probably not this first argument, the data frame, but probably this path and values argument, and then potentially the title argument in order to conform to histogram's requirements. So we're just going to confirm that by running this code and seeing what happens. And we see, yes, indeed, line 2, the line that we're dealing with, we get an error that is a type error. Histogram got an unexpected keyword argument path. So the code got to this point. It said, oh, there is no keyword argument for histogram that is called path, and it threw us an error. So we're just going to have to deal with that. Let's go ahead and actually delete the path and delete the values. And now we're going to leave those empty for now, and we're going to look for potentially the argument that we need to pass instead, because it looks like this information here, EX_level.index and EX_level.values, are actually providing the information we want to see. We're just probably not giving it to histogram the way we want to, or the way that Plotly Express wants us to. So we're going to switch over to Google Chrome, and we'll click on this Plotly graphic to see the full reference list. And again, rather than plotly.express for all of these, we're using the px alias. So there are lots of plots. There's scatter plots, line plots, tree map plots, and histogram plots. So we can just scroll down to find the histogram, or if it was big documentation, we could say Command F and then .histogram. So as we look here, we see, okay, this is similar to what we saw in VS Code. We provide a data frame. Good. Now we need to provide an X, which is either a column of a data frame or a pandas series or array-like object, and it looks like we already have one of those. Let's see right here. Values are used to position marks along the x-axis in Cartesian coordinates. So that is saying, if we say X here, we are going to want to position the values of EX_level.index so that there will be 4 bar charts on the x-axis. And that actually looks like what we want. Where there were 4 rectangles here, we want 4 separate bar charts. Now we go back to the documentation and we look at Y. Either a name of a column in a data frame or a pandas series or array-like object. Well, we've got a pandas series, so that's looking like we may already have the data structure that it requires. And then it says values from this column or array are used to position marks along the y-axis in Cartesian coordinates. Again, that's a fancy way of saying it's going to take the count, so the number of times that value occurs in the data set, and it's going to plot it on the y-axis, which again looks like the information we already have, EX_level.values, right? That value of 2516. We still want it for senior level / expert. We just want it plotted on the y-axis. So we're going to go ahead and type Y and see if that gives us the information we want. And we'll delete title, because as we look here, it looks like there is not a title argument. So we're going to have to find, oh, there is a title argument. So maybe we can leave it and potentially update it later. So I'll say Control Z, and we'll see if that gives us what we're looking for. Again, no harm if we run this code and it doesn't work, but actually it looks like it worked for us just fine. So this title argument it took, and then we have still 4 bar charts rather than 4 rectangles. Good. And the count of senior level expert is 2516, for mid-level 805, entry level 320, and executive director 114. And those match up nicely with what the tree map gave us. So it looks like we're already plotting the same information as the tree map, but it's a little bit more clear because it's immediately quantitative with this y-axis. So we don't have to hover over the bar chart to see the value. We can just look at it, which is nice if we have to take kind of a stagnant representation of this plot, a static plot. And then also it uses 1 color rather than 4 colors. And in this plot, 4 levels are used to distinguish between the different 4 colors are used to distinguish between the 4 experience levels. But we don't actually need those colors because we already have the distinguishing feature in just the label. And here we see we have the distinguishing feature in the X label. So we don't really need a color to provide the information that we're trying to communicate. The last thing we probably want to do here is change our x-axis title and our y-axis title in order to be more informative than value and sum of y, because those just don't make very much sense. So we're going to look and see in the documentation quickly if there is a spot for x-axis label and y-axis label. And it looks like, as we're looking through, there isn't. This labels looks like a potential option, but it's saying column names are used in the figure for axis titles, legend entries, and hovers. Okay, so the keys of this dict should correspond to column names, and the values should correspond to the desired label to be displayed. So this looks like potentially it's going to allow us to change the senior level / expert or mid-level / intermediate labels. But that is actually something we already did up above with these 4 lines. So we don't need to pass a special labels argument because we've actually changed the names of the values in the data frame. So instead, we're looking to somehow update the layout. If I was doing this on my own for the first time, what I might do actually is just give it to ChatGPT. So I'm going to go Command T, and I'm going to say chat.openai.com. I'm going to provide the code, and I'm going to say, how can I update the layout with an X and Y axis? I'm using plotly.express. Let's just see what it gives us. Okay, it's saying we can modify the fig.update_layout method. Okay, so we're just going to call another method, and we're going to update the layout. So these 3 lines of code are ones that we provided it. So is this fig.show. This is the new information here. It's saying fig.update_layout, and then it's giving us x-axis, dict, title, experience level, and y-axis count. So let's actually take that code over to VS Code and run it just to see if it works. And we see, indeed, it did. There are lots of ways to pass in the correct argument. It looks like chat came up with one. So let's also see if we could potentially move, because experience level for the title of the whole plot and experience level for the title of the x-axis is potentially redundant. So let's change this to number of data scientists by experience level. And rather than count, we could just say number of data scientists. That autofill was provided by GitHub Copilot, which is also kind of run by OpenAI. So let's go ahead and run that code, and we see a more descriptive plot title, number of data scientists by experience level, and a descriptive y-axis that provides all the same information as here. That was a double click to get out of the little zoom I did. It provides all the information that we need from Treemap, but in an immediately quantitative way and without extraneous color. So this is actually satisfying to me. I'm going to go ahead and delete the initial description of Treemap, and I'm going to delete this code for Treemap. So I'm left with instead only the histogram that I want.